The Chargers have released their unofficial depth chart, and there was one big move here that I was not expecting. A lot of people are talking about this, but there's some other news. I mean, like, for the most part, there's not a lot of news because the reporters aren't really allowed to get into practice and, report on what's going on. Obviously, because we're in week 1 practicing for the Raiders. It's Raiders week. So let's just go ahead and start out with this depth chart because this is the biggest thing that we got yesterday, and it came out probably 10 minutes after I uploaded my video. So great timing by me. But the first thing that I want to point out is that the Chargers have their offense set up in 21 formation, and that's like their base formation. So that's probably what we're going to see most often for this team. Although there are going to be a lot of different formations, but this is what they consider to be like their base, the starters, okay? And that is a fullback, a running back, 2 tight ends, and 2 wide receivers. And I'm pretty sure last year, actually, the Chargers listed 3 wide receivers as the starters, and that's the formation they had instead of a fullback out there. But Jim Harbaugh is coaching these dudes differently. He wants to run downhill, and he wants his dang fullback. And we're going to find out who that fullback is. But obviously, the first thing that we have here, Justin Herbert, he is starting. That's crazy, okay? Easton Stick as QB2, and then Taylor Heinicke behind him. That is probably going to remain true until about halfway through the season, I think, when Taylor Heinicke has fully picked up this playbook and he can perform this offense well, in practice. He's shown that he can do it well. Once that happens, I would expect the Chargers to probably cut Easton Stick and then probably call up somebody on their practice squad to the roster, because I just don't think there's any need to have 3 quarterbacks, because when you consider the fact that, like, if Justin Herbert were to miss significant time due to injury or something, you're probably in a bad spot and you're going to struggle to win games either way. Like, Taylor Heinicke gives you a better shot because he is a better quarterback than Easton Stick. But, like, if you have Easton Stick out there because you want to have 3 QBs, like, he gives you virtually no chance. So I don't think it's worth the roster spot, in my opinion. He's only still on this roster because he's the emergency quarterback, since he knows the playbook already. But once Taylor Heinicke gets up to speed, expect some movement there. Now, at running back, J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards is listed as the starter, and that's likely because it just depends on, like, where they are on the field and what the situation is. So I guess if it's like 1st and 10 at the 45-yard line, J.K. Dobbins is probably going to be in there. And then if it's 3rd and 1, like basically anywhere on the field, or if it's a red zone situation, like a short yardage situation, Gus Edwards is going to be your guy there. I would also expect Kamani Vidal to get some action as well, because JK and Gus, like, that's a good 1-2 punch. But the way the Ravens always ran things was they had a running back by committee approach, and they would feed the hot hand, and that would change sometimes game by game. So if any one of these 3 running backs gets hot at any point in a game, expect them to be the main guy, and for the other running backs to get touches to basically complement whoever has that hot hand. Now here we go. This is the biggest one. The starting fullback is Scott Matlock, and this kind of came out of nowhere. Like, we saw Scott Matlock line up at fullback in the Cowboys game in week 3, but for the most part, we saw either Jordan McFadden or like Tucker Fisk at fullback for the rest of the preseason and throughout training camp. Scott Matlock must have really impressed late in training camp at fullback, because he only had 5 snaps on offense in the Cowboys game. But this isn't just like, oh, we'll throw him out there occasionally. He is listed as a starter. And they are so committed to doing this that they actually changed his number to 44, and he was taking pictures with the tight ends and fullbacks in the team pictures with the number 44 on him. So, I mean, first of all, what happened to Jordan McFadden? Because he was the guy at fullback. That's what we all were under the impression of. And they didn't have any other fullback listed on this depth chart behind Scott Matlock. So now is he just not going to be fullback at all? And then second of all, how often is Scott Matlock going to rotate in that defensive line now? Are we going to have to suffer and watch the number 44 on the interior defensive line? Because that's a really ugly number for a defensive lineman. I'm just going to be honest. I'm just kind of excited to see Jim Harbaugh utilize these offensive linemen and defensive linemen in creative ways. So I just can't wait to see this in action. And also, we're going to see some extra offensive linemen out there lined up as tight ends as well in jumbo sets in like the red zone. So we could potentially see like 8 to 9 offensive linemen out there on a single play, or 8 to 9 linemen in general. Because Scott Matlock, he wouldn't be an offensive lineman. He'd be the fullback, but he's really a defensive lineman. Now, the starting wide receivers, Josh Palmer and DJ Chark, or Quentin Johnston. So we're getting that or again. I'd rather see Quentin Johnston, though, get more action than DJ Chark. I'm not a huge DJ Chark guy. I know a lot of people like DJ Chark, but I just want to see Quentin Johnston get as much action and as much opportunity as possible early on in the season, because I want to find out early on whether or not he's going to bounce back and play a role in this offense. I want to know for sure what I have in Quentin Johnston, and if I need to start him, then I'm going to start him. I saw some good things in training camp, saw some good things in the preseason. He did have some drops and things like that. It's been kind of up and down, but I think it's been mostly up for Quentin Johnston. So I want to throw him out there, give him a shot. I would have him starting. And now these backups, Darius Davis listed above Simi Fehoko and Brendan Rice. So hopefully we're going to also see him play a role in this offense, because anytime that dude has the ball in his hands, he is dangerous. And the more that you put the ball in his hands as a returner, yes, but also as a wide receiver on offense, the more chances that he's going to have to break it loose and get a touchdown. Now, the starting tight ends are what we expected again. Will Dissly for blocking or Hayden Hurst for receiving. That's kind of how I'm interpreting that. But then we go on to offensive tackles, and Foster Sarell is the primary backup at swing tackles. This is kind of interesting to me because I think we were all expecting Jamari Sawyer to be the guy, you know, as backup tackle. And whenever anybody goes down on that offensive line, you just insert Jamari Sawyer. I guess that's not the case, and Jamari did not win that job. Foster Sarell, he played pretty well as a pass blocker here, as PFF grades in the preseason, but he only allowed 3 pressures, and you can see he graded better every week. I'd like to see him grade a little better as a run blocker. In that first game against the Seahawks was a little rough, but they liked what they saw out of him in the preseason and training camp, so he's going to be the backup tackle. Now, interior offensive line has no shockers here. I mean, these are all kind of what we expected. And then on defense, there's no shockers here on the interior defensive line either. I'd expect all of those guys to rotate in and get a bunch of action, except maybe Scott Matlock. We're still kind of in wait-and-see mode to see how much action he gets on offense compared to defense. Edge rusher, that's obvious. Like, that's what we all expected, right? And then interior linebacker, Junior Colson is the 4th linebacker here. Like, I don't know how long that is going to last, but I think Junior Colson needs to see the field and get a couple plays per game at least. Like, put him in there as like your nickel or dime linebacker in coverage or something, or when you're blitzing and you want someone to blitz, have Junior Colson blitz. I think he's a really good linebacker. He's really athletic. He can see the field really well. He's got a high football IQ. He's played in this defense before. He knows this scheme. I want Junior Colson out there probably playing over Denzel Perryman. That's what I would do. But Denzel Perryman, he is a team captain. And I just really want to see Junior Colson and Daiyan Henley paired together at linebacker, because I think that could be the Chargers linebacker duo for the next decade. And I want to get that going right now, build chemistry. And that duo, that's a really physical duo, a really smart duo. And they can also play in coverage. They got speed sideline to sideline. There's a lot of good things about those two guys, and I want them to be on the field together. And then lastly, we got the cornerbacks, we got the safeties. Don't really have anything surprising. That's kind of what we expected, right? And also all those guys are going to be getting action. They're going to be rotating in different packages and stuff like that as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the team captains. Jim Harbaugh said in his interview that he's got 3 captains on offense and defense. So it is Justin Herbert, obviously. Bradley Bozeman is a team captain. That one kind of surprised me. He's a first-year guy, but, you know, basically everyone's like a first-year guy because it's a new regime. Rashawn Slater is the last captain on offense. And then on defense, Derwin James is a team captain. Duh. Khalil Mack is the other team captain. That's another obvious one right there. But then Denzel Perryman is the next team captain. So that's probably why he's starting. Well, I don't want to say that's why he's starting. Like, he's a veteran. He played well in the preseason, and he's done well in training camp, so he's earned that starting job, but he's a team captain. Alohi Gilman is going to be the alternate captain on defense, and then Trey Pipkins and J.K. Dobbins both tied to be the alternate captain on offense. So those are your team captains. They were all voted by the players. And if you did not see my video yesterday, the Chargers were still making a bunch of moves on the roster and the practice squad, so you can check that out right here.